Hey, welcome to another episode of the Rob Report. I'm your host, Robert Bob TV Brown. Before we get into this segment, by the end of this video, I want you to do a few things for me. First of all, if you like the video, hit the like button. Please do. If you don't like it, hit unlike. It's okay. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Sometimes, as Jimmy Dole would say, you find yourself unsubscribed and you need to make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell right next to it so you can be notified when a new video is being dropped. Whoop, there it is. And more importantly, the super chat will be on for this segment, so if you want to donate toward the efforts of Bob TV, that's freely up to you. I do have a job, but any amount will help toward the growth of this channel. And more important, let us help you help us by introducing you to a program. There's a link down below that says Equal Justice for All. You're going to click that video link, and there's some educational tutorial about a phenomenal program in America that is really making equal justice a reality for every citizen. So this program is phenomenal. The proceeds from you participating in the program will go back, 10% will go back into the Bob TV YouTube channel. So anyway, my name is Robert Brown with the Rob Report. Let's get into it. Hey, good day. Welcome to another episode of Rob Report. How you doing today? Today I'm going to talk about H.R. 40, John Conyers' bill. A lot of presidential candidates are talking about signing. And I'm going to deal serious with this. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole bill, but one of the big things that were talked about at the National Action Network, I guess, annual convention, where the politicians come out and kiss the brass ring of Al Sharpton. The question was asked about supporting reparation, and what really ticks me off is they try to attach reparations to John Conyers' H.R. 40.
Slavery is getting a significant boost from Democrats on the presidential campaign trail. Representative Karen Bass heads the Congressional Black Caucus, and she suggested that actions on a reparations measure sponsored by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee is all but certain, with Democrats now in control of the lower chamber, and the idea gaining prominence on the national stage. Jackson Lee's bill calls for a commission to study reparations, but does not call for Black Americans to receive payments. 2020 hopefuls, including Senators Cory Booker and Elizabeth Warren, backed the legislation. Representative Tulsi Gabbard is a co-sponsor. Former Representative Beto O'Rourke endorsed the idea on Wednesday, a pivot from his earlier statement of opposition to reparations payments. The support from presidential candidates highlights how the idea of reparations is spiking in popularity in Democratic circles, particularly as a large field of candidates jockeys for support from African American voters.
Now, I'm going to go into H.R. 40 because there's certain things about reparations that cannot be co-opted by any politician. It can be supported, it can be endorsed, it can be pushed, it can be put on the forefront, but a politician, I'm trying to watch what I'm saying, because you got people like Al Sharpton, who think they're going to lead the way in reparations. And you got a lot of other people. That's why I am for reparations. I'm still in the learning process. I'm still getting educated. I'm still listening to Dr. Claude Anderson. I'm still looking for listening to Antonio Moore, and I'm still listening to people like that. And I'm listening to podcasts from Professor X Truth, and I'm listening to people like Sandy Darity, people who've been dealing with reparations for a while, has it already set up, already studied it. They studied this for over 10 years, already have this in the bag. It's done. The study is over with. It's finished. All we need is somebody to help us implement it. Yet people are getting excited because these presidential candidates, especially on the Democratic side, all saying to other people in the Black community that I support, or I'm going to support H.R. 40. Let me get into it. This comes from The Hill. Let's say reparation bill wins new momentum in Congress. All right, so let's take a listen to this. House legislation to form a commission to study whether black Americans should receive reparations of slavery is getting a significant boost from Democrats on the presidential campaign trail. So right there in the Hill, it says this is a House legislation to form a commission not to distribute reparations, but to study it. To study it. I need to go to the study hall, I need to get all my books, and I need to brainstorm to see if this is something we're going to do and to see how we're going to do it. To study it. Representative Karen Bass, Democrat of California, the head of Congressional Black Caucus, CBC, an organization who I highly criticize, highly come down on, because here's the Black Caucus who haven't done much for the black community in a long time. They're just overpaid, wealthy black elitists that ain't doing nothing in a while. Anyway, this leader of the Black Caucus suggested that actions on a reparation measure sponsored by Representative Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas is all but certain. With Democrats now in control of the lower chamber and the idea gaining prominence on the national stage. That's what this debate is all about, to gain momentum to be on the national stage. Jackson Lee's bill would form a commission to study. Here we go. We already got John Conyers' bill to study. Why we need Jackson's bill to study? The issue of reparations. But it does not call for black Americans to receive payment. So what you studying for? That's like my mama said, why are you studying for a test you ain't going to... Look, what child is going to study for something that they're not going to be a part of? It's a waste of energy. If I know why am I studying for a physics test and I'm not even in physics class? It don't make sense. Now I said, I don't think there needs to be pressure. We're in charge, Bass said. It's being discussed. I'm sure we're going to get there. In other words, what Congressman Bass says, there's no need to be any pressure, nothing like that. We're working on it. In other words, don't get your panties all up in a bunch. We're going to study this thing so you can go ahead and vote for us Democrats because we got this. No, 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 no. It doesn't work that way. See, the black community, and this is for any other community that watch, understand the black community has been hoodwinked and bamboozled by these charlatans in Washington, D.C., claiming they're going to do all these things for our community, asking for our vote, saying what they're going to do for us, and they get in office and don't do it. We done been through that over and over again. We done voted them all in. And look where we are today. Some cases worse than before. That's why I understand you guys may be nervous. Even though I like Bernie Sanders' policies, there's no guarantee. It could be a promise just like anything else. Have he implemented that in the state of Vermont? Some things he did, some things he couldn't. Because it takes more than him to make that happen. And I am for Bernie Sanders' policies, but just because he campaigning on it don't mean he can deliver it. Because once you get in Congress, once you become president, you got to have a team around you willing to make that happen. Now, this is what I can say about Bernie Sanders. He have an organization that campaigns and help people get in office to implement his policies. That's a game changer. That's different. You got a machine that, okay, once I'm president, we're going to get people, and he did that before he even thought about running again. He probably planned on running anyway again. But he already put that in place that we're going to raise up little mini-me's that's going to take over Congress, and me and my mini-me's are going to vote these things in. But listen, she said, I don't think there need to be a pressure. We're in charge. Who is we? It's being discussed. Okay. You can discuss it all you want. The bottom line is no tangible, no reparation, no vote. 2020 hopefuls, including Senator Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, are backing the legislation. People, just because you back Representative Lee legislation, just because you back John Conyers H.R. 20, doesn't mean you're supporting reparations. No, you're supporting the study of reparation. That's nothing. That holds no weight, it holds no fire. And I see people getting happy, excited about Tulsi Gabbard. And let me tell you something. Out of all the Democrats, I like Tulsi best. Out of all the Democrats. Because she's really going up on, she's going against some machines, not just in the Democratic Party, not just again in Washington, D.C., but she's coming against some machines that other politicians came up against those machines. They ain't lived too long. When you all purpose come up against the CIA and the FBI and, you know, different type of organization, what they call the dark government and things like that. That's Dr. King did that. Railed against certain aspect of the government, the deep state and all that. The military complex. Boy, she's coming down hard on the military complex. Yet she got some policies that I like too. But I tell her the same thing. No reparation, no tangible for black people. If I don't see that in your policy platform, then don't think about getting my vote. Put it in your platform, then you may get my vote. I am so serious about this thing. I don't give a crap about party. If I see a Republican, not Donald Trump, but if I see a Republican that support true black needs in the black community, I don't care if he got a snowball chance in hell in the Republican Party. I'm going to vote for him. If I see the Green Party is primarily going to be my voting this year because they always supported that. Some of you on here say, oh, I'm just voting no. Well, not me. I'm not that person. I'm not voting no for a Democrat. I'm not going to vote for a Democrat. I'm not going to vote for a Republican. Me personally, I'm going to vote. I'm not going to spit on my people who fought hard, died, got burnt, hung on trees, dragged by the feet, got their throat slit, burnt alive. My uncle almost lost his life over that. To not go in that vote, I'm going in that voting booth. If I have to write in ADOS, if I have to write in no tangibles, no votes, if I got to do that, but I'm not sitting at home. No, because I'll be spitting in the faces of people who fought for me to get the right to vote. I'm going to exercise my right to vote, but it's going to be a lot of no's. I'm going in there, I'm writing in ADOS 101 or no tangibles, no vote from me. Now I put no tangible, no vote for me, or I'm lending my support to the Green Party. Because I'd rather vote for an underdog who got my back than not vote at all. You do what you want to do. That's just me. On Wednesday, former Representative Beto O'Rourke endorsed the idea of pivot from his earlier statement of opposition to reparation and payment. Now, let's talk about Beto O'Rourke for a second. Beto O'Rourke is not for no reparation. He's not even for H.R. 20 or Representative Lee's. He's not for it. The only reason he said he was for it is because he went to a meeting that was full of black people. And if he didn't say yeah, he probably wouldn't have made that place alive. Black folks would have stomped him down. So don't get all excited. Honestly speaking, I'm not excited when somebody tell me somebody support H.R. 20 or John Conyers bill, H.R. 40. That doesn't surprise me. I'm not excited. But let me continue. He said, I absolutely will sign it into law, O'Rourke said of Jackson Lee's bill during an interview with Reverend Al Sharpton at his National Action Network convention in New York. The support for presidential candidates highlights how the idea of reparation is spiking in popularity in the Democratic circles, particularly as a large field of candidates jockey for support of the African-American voters. I don't like the word African-American. A lot of us black people are not Africans. Even a lot of ADOSs are not African. But that's another story. You do your history, there's a lot of people that were slaves too that then originated from Africa. But they were still enslaved in this country during the slave times. But you got to do some real studying on that. That Middle Passages, it ain't always what they tell you. You got to remember, certain aspects in our society are telling us our history, and it's not true. There's a lot of things about black history that this America and the education system don't teach you. And they want you to believe their story about the Middle Passage, and a lot of that stuff was not true. But you got to do your studies on that. All right. The support from presidential candidates highlight how the idea of reparation is spiking in popularity in Democratic circles, particularly as the large field of candidates jockey for support from African American voters, or I would say from black voters. Former Representative John Conyers had introduced a reparation bill in Congress ever since 1989, but the legislation was given little notice even with the nation's first black president, Barack Obama, was in office. That bill been in there since 1989, and even Obama didn't take that bill up. Jackson Lee, who took up the mantle from Conyers, said she's been talking with White House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler about holding a hearing on her bill. Nadler is also a co-sponsor, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi has put her considerable voice behind the effort. An aide said Wednesday that if acted upon, the bill would move through Nadler's committee before reaching the floor. All right, so what they want to do is make it seem like they're moving on that to try to get you to placate and still support them. And what they're going to do is they're going to drag this thing along like they dragged this Russian conspiracy bull crap to try to get you to go to the polls, and it's still not going to rule out in your favor. We tried to posture this legislation at a high level, at the highest level of thought and seriousness. There's no humor. There's no request in the bill for a check or a pot of gold, Jackson Lee told The Hill as she headed to a CBC meeting to the Capitol. Who are you to tell the black community how the reparations should be done? This is what I hate about politicians. You're sitting there, you're making decisions, you're going around doing certain things without involving the community. If the community say cut the check, you cut the check just like you did for the Native, a certain aspect of the Native American community. I can't say all. You do it like you did the Japanese in the internment camp. You do it like you did the Holocaust survivor. You cut the check. Now, people who are watching me right now, you taking it personal. Nobody's asking you to give up money. The government been sitting on that reparation money for a long time. They got it and they need to let it go. So you don't need to take it personal because they ain't got nothing to do with you. I'm tired of people going around talking about, well, I didn't own any slaves. You know, if you were white in America and you did not come here as an immigrant, which majority, honestly speaking, all you came here as immigrants. But if you were the ones that was involved with the Middle Passage getting slaves, and your family actually purchased slaves with papers, that goes on you. This is your lineage. Just like it's my lineage that my granddad's side was full-blown black. We look into our history, our personal family history, they're slave papers. And by the way, just to let you know, just because you say you black don't mean you're going to get reparation. You got to prove that your family come from a descendant of, that you're a descendant of slave. You're going to have to take the time out and go through your genealogy and present it to them in order to get your check. So a lot of people say, yeah, no reparations. I mean, I get you, but I'm just telling you, the process of you benefiting from reparation is you got to prove that you were come from a lineage of slaves. Now, let me get back on this. What they're trying to do is they're trying to control the narrative. They know and fear that this posture in the black community of no tangible, no reparation, no vote is strengthening. So they got to do something about it. So they're trying to do damage control, act like they're really moving on something, but what they're moving on is a funky study of a bill. And I'm not going to have time to go through the bill. This is going to be part 2 of this. I don't know what I'm going to name this, but the second part, we're going to actually go over the bill. She said, I don't think it has traction. People are not hesitating to openly support it and pushing for it. Who gives a crap? I think we have a very good chance of having a hearing at some point. At some point. At some point. That's what they said about Medicare for all. That's what they said about most of the things that Bernie's pushing. But right now, you don't even have a chance to win an election if you're not for progressive policies. And we don't have the Congress to push them. That has to be done in phases. So why you won't put reparation on the table, including financial payment to the descendants of slaves? American descendants of slaves. Representative Benny Thompson, Democrat of Mississippi, a prominent member of the CBC, a co-sponsor of the bill, talking about Sheila Jackson Lee bill, characterized reparation as a common sense way for the country to make amends for the historic injustices against African Americans. Again, I have a problem with that because a lot of slaves were not African. They were blacker than black, but they were not of African descent. Some of them was indigenous. They end up being put in the same bunch as property. Let me tell you something. I don't care if you had any hint of black. It doesn't matter whether you came from Mexico and you look like you're black, or if they went to Puerto Rico and got you and you look like you're black. Now, I know people going to get mad at me for saying this, but no, the bottom line is if you were black or you look black, if you're dark skinned, they're going to make a slave out, try to make a slave out of you. They would go in and kidnap. Slave trade was brutal, man. They brought you from all over the world and made you slaves, not just Africa. That's why I hate the word African, but African American. There's a lot of people were slaves that didn't come from Africa, but they still end up being slaves in America. He characterized reparations as a common sense way for the country to make amends. The prominence of the issue among 2020 candidates or contenders has lent momentum to the effort, he said, but also a recognition that Africans who were bought here in bondage that should not have occurred. Why don't you just say black slaves who were bought here into this country in bondage? That should have never occurred. You're right, it should have never occurred. The country owes a lot to the descendants of those slaves. He put Africans up here. As to what the remedy is, we need to look at it. Thompson said, comparing to the issues to the Japanese internment of World War II, Congress descendants later passed legislation offering a formal apology and $20,000 to each surviving victims of that campaign. Now listen to this. Let me repeat this. He said this country owes a lot to the descendants of slaves. He put African there. I'm gonna leave that alone. As to what the remedy is, we need to look at it. You don't need to look at it. They already looked at it back in the 1800s when slavery was abolished. They even had a plan on what to do to pay for the horrible mess of slavery. They already did that. So while you're sitting here saying we need to remedy this, we need to take a look at it. I digress. Comparing to the issues to the Japanese internment of World War II, Congress decades later passed legislation offering a formal apology and a check, $20,000 to each of the surviving victims of that campaign. So you know what reparation is. You know what it looked like. In that case, it wasn't as horrible as slavery, but you gave them a formal apology and every descendant a $20,000 check. Obviously, slavery was a greater interment. And so it's something that has to be looked into, absolutely, Thompson said. Not all Democrats back direct reparations or payment. That's going to be a problem for you guys. Because you can't equate public policies to reparation. Everybody deserves health care. Everybody deserves a living wage. Everybody deserves to be able to get into college and not go broke trying to do it, affordable, paying nothing. Everybody deserves that in the United States. The issue is divisive, and ahead of an election where Republicans and Democrats will be battling over Rust Belt states of Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, it has the potential to split Democrats from the white working class. See, that's your fear. And for people to worry about that, it's cowardly. Because you're worried about splitting up the Rust Belt when you're worried about not getting the black vote in the primaries. And I keep telling you, if you're not going to get the black vote in the primaries, you ain't going to win the general election. Because it's up to the independents after that. So you got to take your first win. Make sure you do whatever you need to get the black vote. And what you're going to have to do is spend time on this issue and put this on your platform. In the presidential race, Senator Bernie Sanders has said he does not believe direct payment are the best way to address the needs of distressed community. That's the problem with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders got to get out of what he believes and listen to the black community. We've tried all this stuff to deal with distressed communities. His policies will help in certain areas of distressed community, but it won't make the distressed community undistressed. Until you fix this situation, the black community will always be a distressed community. I don't care how much money you pour into the community itself. We talk about the families whose family members were slaves. I think what we got to do is pay attention to distressed communities, black communities, Latino community, and white community. This is not a we are the world, we all American situation, because the Latino community and the white community wasn't made slaves. You might have some darker complected Latinos that got brought over, because we do remember that some of the slave ships that did come into the come to this country, a lot of those slaves jumped off and ended up making their way into Puerto Rico, you know, the West Indies and things like that. As President Bernie Sanders said, I pledge to do that. I pledge to pay attention to distressed communities in black, Latino, and white community. Son, this is where people get ticked off with Bernie Sanders. While you're trying to say we are the world and I want to save America, we saying we heard all that. And we're tired of that. You can do that. But don't count on our vote if you're not going to detach us and do something different for us in your policy. Well, what makes you special? Do I have to answer that? Representative James Clyburn, a CBC member and the third-ranking House Democrat, has long fought to eliminate racial disparities on jobs, wages, housing, and wealth, but he's repeatedly argued against reparations in the form of cash payment, saying it would simply be too difficult to implement. Who, you talking about Uncle Remus from the Boondocks? What's his name? Ain't nobody listening to James Clyburn, man. Anybody listen to James Clyburn? James Clyburn kissed so much white butt in the Democratic Party, his lips are white. Ain't nobody listening to him. I'm telling you, they based that character on the Boondock. I thought they based it off Jesse Lee Peterson. No, they based that character off of this dude, James Clyburn. He's the best thing white supremacists have available. And I know people don't like to use that word because they don't want to be notifying something is supremacist. We're talking about, let me say, white supremacist thinkers, people who think they're supreme. They love people like James Clyburn. They love people like Jesse Lee Peterson arguing against the cash payment. Y'all need to get his butt up out of office. He's been in there too long anyway. Get his butt up out of office and replace him. You got to satisfy two problems according to Clyburn. One of which is legality, the legality of it. What do you mean, man? And the other is the practicality of it. Man, go ahead with this stupid stuff. Clyburn said in an interview last month. Clyburn highlighted just one of the thorny questions a reparation panel would have to resolve, noting that mixed race people following the Civil War had access to certain schooling that black former slaves did not. This ain't got nothing to do with schooling. This got to do with if your lineage end up having somebody sold as a slave, being a bill of sale for a slave, it doesn't matter. We know white slaves rape black white slave owners rape black slaves in front of the women. We know that some white slave owners rape the black men in front of the women too. Rape the kids. And made sure their butt was out there in the field picking cotton after they did it. Is anybody talking about mixed people? There's a black in there somewhere. And 9 times out of 10, that black has a lineage linking up to a slave owner. So you got the nerves to say this. Are mulattoes descendants of slaves? Yes, they are. But they got a leg up, he says. So I don't know how you can fairly deal with that. That's the practical part. Stop, Clyburn. Has nothing to do with that. Clyburn is instead pushing to direct investments in the nation's poorest region. We're tired of that, man. We've been doing that forever. Known as the 10-20-30 plan. Piece of trash. I'll wipe my butt with it. Clyburn model operates under the simple premises that federal development dollars are best spent in the areas of greatest needs. Under his formula, federal programs must direct at least 10% of their funds to communities where at least 20% of the population has lived below the poverty line for at least the past 30 years. What this happened to do with our forefathers being slaves, man? On Wednesday, Clyburn and Booker introduced legislation that would expand that model, which already governs part of federal spending to a larger swath of the program. While geniuses is spread equally across zip codes, opportunity is not, Booker said. Jackson Lee bill has the same number adopted by Congress, H.R. 40. That's a nod to 40 acres and a mule, an unfulfilled promise that the Union leaders made to newly freed slaves in 1865, which they never did. There's no holdup. You don't move legislation overnight. I would never say there's a holdup, Jackson Lee said. The Judiciary Committee has been working on this, and we are very excited of the Speaker taking note of H.R. 40. The proposal would establish a committee charged with studying the institution of slavery in the United States from its inception until the end of the Civil War, 1865, and recommend ways to compensate living descendants. Now, I'm stopped there. The problem with Representative Conyers, Representative Representative Clyburn, Cory Booker, is you're trying to put political leaders in charge of this. This has to come from the grassroots, from the ground up. You still here talking about studying, getting educated on the subject, going to take some time, and to see how we're going to implement the strategy. It's already been done. Why are you wasting time on this? There are people already done this. It's done, and they have a plan to implement it. All you need to do is get with this. That's why I am still not supporting you just because you say you're supporting H.R. 40 or any other bill that's supposed to be reparation, which is not. It's just a study. I'm not supporting a study when the study is already done. You don't impress me because you're a presidential candidate and you say you're supporting a study. Get out of here. The study has been done. The people who've been studying this for the longest has a plan to implement it. All you have to do is get with them. They need to be the committee. No politician. We don't need a bunch of elitists, most of them attorneys, rich, wealthy people who have health care, who have college for their kids, who have all the benefits of being on Capitol Hill to try to tell us what we need in the community. That can't be done. And that's why we need to step up and make videos like this and take a stand against this. Like I said, I'm not the pro on this. I just know that somebody has studied this and somebody has a plan to implement it. And the people that need to be leading it is these people. Claude Ennis, Solidarity, Antonio Moore. No, I could go on and on and on. There's already people who study this. They already got the plan to implement it. And you just need to get with them. We don't need to study this, and this study end up being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, and they still don't move on it. Don't fall for the okie doke. Keep applying your political pressure. And you say it in their face. And anybody who say that so-and-so support HR 40, don't be impressed. That don't mean nothing. We don't need somebody, and we're not going to back up somebody, and we're not going to give them our vote because they support a study. Really? You want my vote because you decide that you support the study of reparations? Really? And people need to get together and get Clyburn butt out of there. He need to go because he's not even for that. I think all we need to do is just put the money in the black community in distress areas, federal aid from the government about 10%, and put it in the black community, and that'll fix it. We've been doing that forever, man. Ain't nothing fixed. What we need to do is fix him and get his butt out of office, because he is not your friend. Clyburn is a joke, and you need to get his butt out of office. This whole thing is a joke. This whole HR 40 Representative Lee thing is a joke. Passing a bill to study something that's been studied for over 20 years is a joke. Trying to get to a point where you finally get it, and then you plan on implementing or plan on not implementing when it's been studied and they already have a plan to implement. All you have to do is get with those people who come from the grassroots, the black community, who are black, that's been studying this a while. So I'm not impressed if Bernie Sanders says he's for HR 40. That don't impress. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard's for HR 40. That don't impress me. It's good. That don't impress me, dog. Because I read HR 40. And I'm not going to do it now, but we're going to take some time and go over it the next time I do this. I should have made this a Freedom on Fire segment, but this is a Rob report. I'm not impressed when you come say, well, I support reparation, I support HR 40. That ain't supporting reparation, dog. You just supporting a study on a reparation. That's a whole totally different thing. You know, I studied Southern racism my first year out of high school. Decided to do it on my own. I went to the library and got it, books, and studied it. Went to Virginia State, went to the library there, got books and studied harsh Southern racism. But just because I study it, don't mean I support it. So you supporting me studying racism don't mean you support racism. So it just don't make sense just because you support a study. That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. You're just saying you support a study of racism. You're not supporting racism. Same thing goes with this. You saying you support H.R. 40, your vote for H.R. 40 does not impress me, because H.R. 40 is just a study. It is not a support for reparations. Now, Beto O'Rourke said he'll sign it into law. How you going to sign something into law and you don't even know what it is? Why don't you go to the people who know what it is and let them tell you? Go ahead. The video's out there. Go ahead and look for it. Google Sandy Darity. Google Claude Anderson. Go ahead. Go look at some of these papers that's been done through universities where they already done dealt with this stuff. And you're going to talk about, all it is I need to get a hook in the black community, and I think I can hook them with H.R. 40. They're hoping that they can get you on that hook. Well, you never get me on that hook, because I know a study. I know the difference between a study and actually doing. And studying is not doing. Two different actions. Anyway, I'm almost done. There's no hold up. You don't move legislation overnight. I would never say there's a hold up, though. Blah, blah, blah. Representative Lee. The proposal would establish a committee charged with studying institutions of slavery in the United States from its inception to the end of the Civil War in 1865, and recommend ways to compensate living descendants. CBC members point out that idea of reparation is being discussed on the 2020 campaign trail because grassroots activists are pressing candidates, that's right, and congressional leaders to take up the issue. No, we're not pressing you to take up the issue. We're pressing you to support it. It's different, man. It's coming from the streets, one CBC member said. In one example, Clyburn was pressed last month by an activist representing a group of American descendants of slavery. Shout outs to him. Tell Nancy Pelosi to cut the check.
If you wait on cash payments to come out of reparations, you're going to wait forever. It's not going to happen. So what you've got to do, let me just talk. Don't put that in my face.
Why are you touching me?
Okay, all right. I'm going to leave you alone.
Cut the check. Tell Nancy Pelosi to cut the check.
Yeah.
You do that for me?
She's the treasurer.
Cut the check. Somebody better cut the check.
Well,
reparations are owed, sir.
You talk to the
ADOS, you're not going to run away from this issue, Congressman.
Oh, I'm not trying to run away from it.
It seems like you are. You're walking away right now.
Oh.
Cut the check, Congressman.
Cut the check. Representative Cedric Richmond, the immediate past chairman of CBC, is a supporter of reparations and the idea of establishing a commission. He said, I think it's a good idea, especially if it's in the form of education or tuition or something like that. But sometimes you let the experts tell you what they think it should be, he said. Yeah, but what make you think you're the expert? I'm telling you, let the expert tell you what it should be. So I think the commission is good because we need to see what the experts say would be the correct remedy. But Representative Richmond, your experts can't be people from Congress. Because if we didn't apply the pressure, or ADOS community didn't apply the pressure on them, they wouldn't even be taking it up. It still would be sitting there with cobwebs and dust on it. But because of the applied political pressure, they're taking it up, and now y'all talking about it. But they cannot be the one that's going to sit on this committee. Clyburn definitely can't be, because he is not in black interests. Sheila Lee can't be. None of y'all can't be. This have to come from the experts, just like you said. And the experts are not in Congress. The experts are not on Capitol Hill. The experts come from the grassroots who've been studying this thing for 20 years plus and got the solution. So while you're studying, these people are ready to move on it, and they got the community back in them, and they're saying if you're not going to support it, if you're not going to put it on your platform, and if you're not going to move on it, then you can forget our vote. So while y'all sitting up there studying and monkeying around, y'all ain't getting votes. And I say it again, and I will continue to say it. If you are going to count out the black vote, count out you winning the primary. And even though Bernie Sanders is doing well in his campaign, a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters are independents and they can't even vote because the Democratic got this stupid system called closed primaries. That hurts because you got a lot of independents that will put you over the top. They can't. They can't because there's too many closed primaries in America on the Democratic side. So you have to rely on the black vote. And if you don't get the black vote, you ain't winning. Now, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Family, I hear people tell me all the time, so and so and so is for reparation. They support HR 40. Don't tell me that, people. That don't impress me. To me, they're doing that for political expediency. I got the word right. Yes. They're doing that because they know they're running for office. But in my community, and don't get me wrong, this is a melting pot of America, I know that, but in the black community, we ain't buying it. We don't want to hear anything about y'all studying it. For us to force you into taking up the issue is one thing. For you to say that you're going to study it is gaslighting. I was going to say gas fading. It's gaslighting us. We don't need a study. It's been studied. There's experts on the grassroots that you need to have on that committee, and you need to listen to them, and they'll tell you how to get it done. And we don't have to depend on Congress to pass this. We do have a Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court can make marriage, gay marriage illegal, make gay marriage legal in majority of the states, because most states wasn't making it legal. If they can do that, they can do that with this. Now, will they? I doubt it. Not with those nutwings that's in there right now. On Judge Sotomayor, she's not African American descendant of slaves. So, anyway, I'm done with this subject. It's a slap in the face. It's a spit in the face. It's gaslighting when you come tell me that so and so support HR 20. I mean HR 40. Fine. You support a study on reparations. That is not saying that you're for reparations. That's not saying I'm for reparation. Matter of fact, I'm so for reparation that I'm going to come up with my own team to come up with the plan to make it happen. And there's a team that already got the plan, and they know how to make it happen. They know exactly what it looked like. Don't need to study stuff. All right, folks, I'm done. It is late. I need to go to bed. You need to go to bed. I'm Rob Brown with the Rob Report. I love you guys. HR 40 is a big old gaslight. That's all it is. It's a head fake. It's a hook to me, a hook that they're gonna hook you, and they're not even gonna pull you out the water until they feel like they want to pull you out the water. I'm not biting the hook. Come back and tell me you're in support of it. That's all I need you to do. And if you can't tell me you're in support of it now, then don't come look at me. And here, just to let you know, I want reparations, and I want health care, and I want no cost. I want it all. I'm not an either or guy. And if people on here that watch me think I should be an either or guy, you ain't got to watch me no more. Because I'm not an either or. I want it all. And if you're running on a progressive platform, I'm still going to push you to support reparation. And not a study. And don't come talk to me about a study, because I'm going to tell you in your face, I'm not voting for you to study something. I'm voting for you to take this on as an issue on your platform. You want to study? I got your study. You need to go listen to Sandy Darity. Anyway, I'm done. I'm out of here, guys. I'll let you later. Peace.